You're in big business now. What was the transition like for you?
The thing about football is you got to listen to it when it's, it tells you like, your time's about to be up, right?
I talk to former players all the time, and it is scary to understand that sports will run out one day and that you will have to rely on your education.
Dude, if you can have success in the NFL where it's a dog-eat-dog world, like you have the building blocks and fundamentals to like know what that path of success looks like. Getting into the business arena, going to Wharton, you have to give yourself grace, understanding that you're completely new at this. And I think one of the greatest gifts we've learned or been taught as athletes is our
Ladies and gentlemen, I am so honored for our next guest, a Super Bowl champion with the Philadelphia Eagles, Miami of Ohio's greatest football player ever, and after his career went and got his MBA from the Wharton School of Business. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Goldman Sachs' new employee, Brandon Brooks. What's up, Brandon?
Brian, thanks for the hell of an intro, man. Appreciate you, dude.
Man, I appreciate you. It is so great to have you on this podcast. There's so many places we can go. One of the most intelligent players I ever played with. But let's start with business. You're in big business now. What was the transition like for you? When did you say, okay, I had an excellent career, but I want more. I'm going to go to the Wharton School of Business. Walk us through what that transition was like.
Well, back in the day, we used to have conversations about, life after football and, kind of the options that are out there, right? So honestly, man, like after my first year, I started looking at, different, avenues I can go down, right? So, when I was down in Houston, right, I started interning at Amegy Bank in the off season, and then I did private wealth at Morgan Stanley. I did Kane Anderson, which is private equity, like midstream, downstream. And then even when I came to Philly, right, got the second contract. I interned at Susquehanna International Group, and then I interned at the tax revenue department as well. And so it's really always been on my mind. But the thing about football is you got to listen to it when it's it tells you like your time's about to be up, right? So towards the end of my career, like I started having injuries, and I was thinking about retirement on a couple different occasions, and just made that leap, right? Like okay, I've had a great career, like you said, right? Won a Super Bowl, was an All-Star. I was fortunate enough to get, some contracts, and, it was just time. So for my 10th year, I tore my pec, and in that off season, I just studied for the GMAT, knowing that I was going to retire after the season, and, applied in round 3 and, was accepted. And yeah, went to Wharton, double majored in accounting and business analytics. And yeah, here I am.
Wow. I mean, come on. These are the stories that need to be told right here, because I think we do get a lot of stories about players struggling, and we need to continue to help our brothers who are struggling in terms of their transition. But Brandon, man, just in the short 5 minutes I've known you, and what you just said and what you just presented is incredible in terms of what you are doing. I think this story needs to be told, and you are setting an example of people that put on that helmet for multiple years and create an incredible path for themselves in terms of what they do in the NFL, but then transition and what you're going to do and the impact that you're going to be able to have on people. Life after sports is going to continue to be incredible. All these things, accounting and business analytics, what interested you there?
Going into business school, you would always hear like, accounting is, the language of business. And when most people think of accounting, you think of like taxes, right? Or H&R Block or something like that. But if you can understand accounting, I mean, whether it's anything under the business umbrella, deals with accounting. And specifically for me, over the summer, I was looking at like all like 10Ks, right? Like basically to see if businesses, were what they say they were. And so being able to, whether it's, a balance sheet or, income statement or cash flow statement, understanding how those are intertwined, understanding, where to look, where you can hide different things on those statements, worked wonders for me. So that's where accounting came in. But then business analytics, how would I describe business analytics? It'd be like how to maximize efficiency on a business from an operator's role. And so, going through those classes, right? Like at the end of the day, like I kind of want to do my own thing. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but I want to be able to operate and make this business as efficient and understand the ins and outs of how to do that. I think what's important. So I figured combining those two would suit me best.
Clearly, it will be best for you. I want to go back. You're talking about internships while you're playing, and one of the things I've loved about you since we were teammates in Houston is when you make up your mind, you're doing it. I really love that about you. What was the reaction of people when you were still in the NFL, but like there for an internship? What was some of those interactions like?
Yeah, from the player perspective, man, you had guys who, it's because I was young too, right? So guys were like, dude, like, the fuck are you doing, man? And then like there was you know, different coaches who, had similar opinions too, like, oh, like I heard you're interning, but not like, oh, I heard you're interning because like, it's good for you. But like, oh, you're interning, like what are you doing? And it was just like, like, it's a much bigger picture. And I always said like, the window of playing football in your life, man, if you put it to like a TV show, man, it's like a commercial. And so like you never know how long you really have playing in the NFL, man. Like it could be over, like tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, right? So it was just something that like I knew I wanted to do, I had a passion for, and I always felt like experience is the best teacher. So let me get out here and actually, do it, right? On the other side, it was, you know, I was completely new, man. It was like I don't know, like the first time you ever picked up a football. And so everything was new. And to your point, like even the copy machine, right? Like how the fuck do you make copies? Like because you know what I mean? Like it was
That
completely
was it was my nemesis when I started. What the hell is this?
yeah, like everything is just completely new. So, they were really kind of just spoon feed me, man. This is how you do this, this is how you look at this. And, I got my start, doing stuff like that, man. So, whether I was at Amity, Morgan Stanley, or Kane Anderson, man, everybody was, willing to help. Everybody was, really understood that this was completely new for me. So it was well received.
Brandon, I'd love to ask you, going to college and becoming a man and then going to the pros, who helped you understand this path and that this path was out there? I think I was very blessed and fortunate to have great parents who gave me an incredible foundation to understand that sports will run out one day. Your time will be up, and that you will have to rely on your education, and you will also have to rely on the relationships that you have built over time to do incredible things in the world. Where did you get that education and that knowledge from as you were growing up?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, really, my mother, man. She double majored in business and chemistry when she went to college, and she was always on me from high school to college, even now, man. When I graduated from Wharton, she was like, "Dude, you make the fucking honor roll." I'm like, "Dude,
I
like,
love it.
yeah." So now she's always been on me about education, continuing my education, and things like that. So got to give her a lot of credit. But then like the NFL always says what you choose to see it as, right? So I think initially when we come in, it's like, oh, bright lights, a lot of access to this, and it's just a much different world. But at the same time, just as there are pros, there are cons, but you have to choose to see it. And so I saw the entire picture. So just as guys are, getting big contracts and having a lot of success, there's many more guys who never reach that, and there are many more guys as well who blow their money or do stupid. And so you see them struggle, and it's like, man, hey, I got to do what I got to do to make sure I'm not one of those, even though I'm not playing football. And
Mhm.
so, I did the big three, right? Like law, medicine, and business. Kind of just did my research on each one, how long of a timetable it would be for me to basically be able to practice the profession. And just realized like I had a passion for business, understood the timetable, like post career. Like, for example, like if I want to be a doctor, man, like I would have to go back and like, take undergrad chemistry classes. And then, you got to get to med school. Then you got to do residency. And then like, that's another 10 years, man, before I actually practice medicine. And it's like, dude, I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong with starting at 45, but I don't want to start at 45, like, practicing medicine. Definitely my mom and, had great teammates like Ryan, have those bounce those conversations off of. And yeah, just, chose to see it for what it is and, understand what I was good at and, make it happen.
Well, one of the things I want to credit you for and give you a lot of credit for, and we can give it to moms too, man. I'm a big fan of your mother's son. All right. I'm just a big fan of her son, you. And I don't think I've ever told you this, I really believe you changed our game for the best when you were a player because with that big picture, you came out at 320 pounds who would kick anybody's ass who has something to say. And you said, hey, I have bouts with anxiety. And to me, Brandon, that allowed everyone else in the game to at least enter the conversation wherever they were at. When you made that choice, what went into that for you when you changed our game for the best?
Yeah, man. You're impacted by mental health in different ways, right? And so, specifically for me, it was just like a weird thing where, dude, I would just start vomiting, man, for like 24 hours. I couldn't stop it, dude. I'd end up in the hospital. They're like giving me everything known to man, and like this just wouldn't stop. And unless you're in this game, or I guess like a similar position being like, I don't know, like a CEO of like a Fortune 500 company, you really have no idea like what that pressure is like. It's not something where it's just like, it's just a pure pressure, but I think each and every one of us, we want to do our best and be as perfect as possible consistently. And naturally, you're going to put that pressure on yourself. And it's just like, I don't know, man. Like that's just how like my body handled it. And for me, when it happened, basically what happened was I was in Philly in 2016, and I missed the game, ended up in the hospital, played a game, and then missed another game. And it got to the point where, you miss a game or something, whatever. But then like it was like, damn near 2 and 3 weeks. And so it was just basically like, the media's gonna ask, like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? And as a man, I had the opportunity to either be like, this is what's really going on, or, make up some excuse. And for me, it was just like, it's not in my character to sit here and lie to you about something that actually really matters. And so, like, no matter what the outcome was or how I was viewed, it was important to me to just be real. And I don't even think I was thinking about like, you know, the impact this would make. I was just thinking like, I'm not a liar. So like, hey, you either love me or you hate me. You're gonna break me over the coals over this, so be it. But like, this is what I got going on. I'll never forget. I got together with the Eagles media man, and they were like, which path do you want to go down? Like, dude, I'm just gonna tell them like, it is what it is. Well, been in the Eagles locker room, right? You know where it is. Like the whole line is all the way in the back. And so when I walked in the locker room, man, it was, you hear a pin drop, man. And like everybody in the media turn around, man, like follow, how they follow you all the way back to your chair and bright lights are on.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in my locker like, well, let's do it. And so basically told them like, exactly what I just told you guys, right? Like I have an anxiety condition, was diagnosed with it. This is how my body handles it. This is what's going on. But I also think it's important to say, and I said then, like, I'm not saying it to get any pity. I'm not saying it as an excuse because, hey, like, if the Eagles would have released me because of that, like, I understand, right? Like, we got a job to do, so like, there's no excuse, man. Like, whatever happens, happens. And so when I said it, all of a sudden, man, it was on CNN, man, like, it was just everywhere. Like, I didn't think it was going to be anything like that, right? And it's very unfortunate because I think a lot of athletes we deal with this and we have dealt with this at some point in our careers. And it's more or less just to say, like, you have brothers that go through the same thing, and here's different ways to either get help, or here's different ways that I've dealt with it. And here's basically how you overcome it, or here's how you cope with it. And so that was kind of like, the journey. And when I did that, actually, I had a lot of athletes throughout the league reach out to me about it, whether it was, kudos for, saying your piece, or I'm going through something similar, how do you get help or how do you cope with it? Dude, people don't realize, man, like the game is so much bigger than just you, man. Like you're trained to be consistent and, think to not make a mistake in something where the talent level is so close, you're going to make a mistake. And when you make that mistake, it's hundreds of thousands, in the stadium, but it's millions watching. And it's not just, it's just you're representing, man. It's your mom and dad, right? Like you have a bad game, man. Like, okay, you thinking like, oh, fuck it, like, your fans can cuss at me, whatever. But then like, imagine your parents go to work, man, if they get harassed or some that you did. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so much. that's you, man. As you go out there, and it's just like you have so much going on, not just being a player, but like just as a man. And so, when I went through it and said the piece, man, I was like a weight lifted off my shoulders, as far
Mm.
as what's going on and having other players reach out.
How did that transition into, what you're doing now in terms of your transition out of sports? How do you handle it now? How do you continue to make sure that your mental health is at the top of its game, so to speak, in terms of, because I talk to former players all the time and it is scary. And now this is something that has scared them their whole lives, regardless of how their career went, but now they're transitioning. How did you make sure that you were on top of your mental health as you were transitioning? Because I also think that's super important.
I think the first, step is recognizing and understanding, whatever the issue is with your mental health, right? So once you do that, it's like I think step two is understanding how to cope with it, the different mechanisms to see it coming, knowing what it looks like, and I guess different arenas or different packages. And then for me specifically, it's like slowly but surely, like putting myself into that, fight or flight just a little bit. So then you get kind of used to it. And you can, pull back a little bit more, then you pull back. So like it just becomes second nature, I guess, at a certain point. Like you're constantly pushing whatever bar that is until it somehow either gets comfortable or until no matter what happens in any situation, you can kind of cope with it. And so for me, it was just like, okay, I understand what's going on. I know what it looks like. I understand, the different safeguards I need to do in order to take care of my mental health. But how do I push the envelope where it's just like I'm more comfortable whenever it does happen? I'm more, I can recognize it faster when it does happen. And so as I transitioned, it was something completely new, man. Like, getting into the business arena, going to Wharton, you're around much different peers. You're constantly trying to prove yourself again, what that looks like.
Can we double click on that right there? I'd love to know, just because I feel this sometimes too, in the arena that you're now in, especially at Goldman or even at Wharton. Sometimes I feel a little bit of imposter syndrome because you are trying to improve yourself over again. And these people have been building this incredible career, especially the people at a Goldman or a multifamily office or right in the rooms that you and I are in together. Brandon, talk a little bit about, have you had imposter syndrome and how do you think about that? And how do you think about proving yourself all over again without like trying super hard where you're like, you look desperate in a way?
No, 100%, man. Dude, when I got to Wharton, it was like, fuck, right? Like, you're at the best business school in the world. And like, just as we've spent all our life to become football players, right? Since you're little, you had, the 10,000 hour rule, right? Like, we've probably had, I don't know, like way over 10,000 hours. And it's just like, this is my,
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? This is my first hour. Oh, dude. Um, it's just like anything else, man. Like, it's just reps, right? Like, one, you have to give yourself grace, understanding that you're completely new at this. And I think through sports, we're conditioned to think like the first time we do something, it better be perfect. Otherwise, like, we're getting fired. But like, dude, like, you can't, day one come out here and, build a free cash flow model. Like, you don't even know what the fuck you're doing. And so, like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, oh, like, yeah, you're going to make stupid mistakes. Yeah, like, you probably won't know what half the shit is, but like, the thing I think that makes us, or one of the greatest gifts we've learned or been taught as athletes, is our makeup speed. And so over time, like we will figure it out and we will maximize efficiency. And so like, yeah, like my first year, like I didn't go to any party. All I did was I went to school, I came home, I ate for an hour, and then I studied till midnight for a year straight because I needed to figure out like how do I compete in this? Like how do I get good at this? Like when people are talking about different things in the finance world in class, like, I need to know what's going on, and I need to know what's going on like right now. And so I think as with most things in life, it's just reps. You put the time in. It's not an instant gratification game. Like it will take time, it will be hard, but like that's exactly what football is, right? Like when you came in as a rookie, like no matter where you came from, like you could have been the man, but like, dude, it's just a different game. Like it's faster. It's people are stronger, people are bigger. Like it's gonna take time for you to get to where you need to be. And so for me, it was just, hey, like I mean, I get to the day, but I'm gonna keep coming at it, and the more reps I can get, the better I'll get, the faster I'll be to where I need to be. So yeah, I had imposter syndrome, and to a certain degree, I'm sure like when I was at Goldman for 10 weeks last summer, but going back full time and like cranking away, like yeah, like I'll probably have imposter syndrome initially, but I'll definitely figure it out.
That rookie year, it's crazy, that rookie year thing, or like when you look at that playbook and then you go out to the practice field for like OTAs the first time and then you watch people just do the drills that you're getting ready to do, and you're like, man, how is he doing it like this? And then you see, for me, it was Demaryius Thomas, because I was standing behind DT in line, and I was like, he's getting out of his breaks faster than me. He weighs 40 pounds heavier than me, and his hands are enormous. I was like, bro, like, this is the league. Am I sure I'm supposed to be here?
Yeah, no, it's funny you said that, right? Like the first like OTAs, right? Like you're like, oh, let me go out here and prove myself. And you see these guys just machines out here, just effortlessly. God damn, like, like is
But
this
what
You
that
really?
see
got
somebody
you,
like me doing it, and then you're like, "Oh God, I can do it." Yeah, yeah, you'll find your way. You'll find your way. If this can do it, I can do it. Hey, shout out to Wade Smith. Yeah, shout out to Wade Smith real quick, one of the triple OGs.
Yeah,
But I love what you talked about too with makeup speed. I mean, that's something that I think athletes can really rely on, and really people, right? No matter who you are, where you're at, you have that makeup speed. But I want to go back to your playing career for a minute. You got to win a Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. When did you know in that season you had a chance? And what did it feel like when you got to put your hands on that trophy?
when they beat our ass at Philly, when the Broncos came to Philly and they dogged us.
you know what? It was so we started off 1-1, right? Like, and I think we lost to the Chiefs that week too, right? And we were like, oh, like we really weren't sure. And then yeah, we went on a run. For me personally, it was when we played the Vikings in the NFC Championship. And that sounds late, but here's why. Coming into that week, the Vikings had like the number one defense, and they were like shutting the down, right? Like, it wasn't sweet out there. So I'm like, oh, it's gonna get tough. And then we go out there and win like 38-7. I'm like, God damn, like we might be pretty good. Like, okay, like we might be able to make some noise. I think had Carson not gotten hurt, he probably would have won MVP that season too. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. But
Mhm.
when they made the transition, we continued to win. It may not have been as sexy initially, but then like, hey, Foles started rolling, man. And then before you know it, hey, he was on the slinging the pill out there, man. You know, hey, Foles got on his roll, man, and yeah, I think it was NFC Championship, right? Like I'll never forget a play. It was like a play action or something, man. Like they came in the huddle, man. Open the wrist, man. It was like, yo, like, hey, give me time. It's just a touchdown. And sure enough, that's where he threw that touchdown to Torrey Smith and like in the back of the end zone. I'm like, God damn, like when you can call a number like that, like, hey, why you go out here and make some noise? And then get into the Super Bowl, man. Like playing against Tom and Bill, together. Obviously Tom being the GOAT, Tom being the GOAT, man. It was just like, we're gonna see what we're really made of. And to be honest, I wouldn't, have wanted to win a Super Bowl, any other way. And, when it was like a minute, I think 25, minute 30 left, we had just scored and, we're on. It's like, man, maybe we should have ran the clock out a little bit more because, God damn it, like it's Tom over there, Tom and Bill. Like, they do this, man. And, 23 versus the Falcons, like, if you come back from that, so it really didn't hit me, us winning a Super Bowl, until we really got back to Philly. And the reason why is just, you're always trained like the next week, the next week, the next week. And so, like, even winning the Super Bowl, okay, like there was, more flashes on kickoff, confetti falling, whatever. But like at the end of the day, it's the game that you've always played. And so, after the confetti fell, okay, some celebrations, here and there. But then when you get back to the city, man, and it was the first one Philly, ever won, man. Like, people crying, people pouring out their ashes, and people, older people being like, I could finally die in peace, and like, damn, meant a lot for the city, man. Like, just so you could die in peace. Like, holy shit.
It's crazy what fans are like, how they actually like look at the game. And I still kind of don't understand it, but like people like this is their everything. But I do want to go back, and when we played y'all that year, it was 2017, correct? I believe the year y'all won. 2018 Super Bowl. I felt like you guys, and we talked about it after you guys beat us, because we came to Philly and you guys handled us, and the camaraderie that you guys had, the celebrations. I mean, you guys were having an incredible amount of fun. And that reminded me of our Super Bowl team. Our offense struggled, but as a team, we had fun like every day. And our
Every
practices
day.
were the best. And just knowing BG and then looking at you guys from the outside, I mean, I saw celebrations after every play, players helping each other up, touchdown celebrations. I was like, man, if they get on a roll, it's a wrap. And we played you guys when you guys were on that roll. And I don't know, it might have been 50-21 or something like that. Like, and our defense was incredible.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to say it, man. That team was incredibly close, and I think I guess another layer that doesn't get enough credit is the guys that are starting and big name guys like doing what they're supposed to do. Of course, like it makes sense, but it was the guys like Bo Allen, Brent Selleck, Big V, kind of the guys who maybe weren't starters but became starters when guys got hurt, and like the play didn't drop off. Nick Foles, right? Like those guys, kind of unsung heroes, where like they came in and you know played up to par with the guys who were in front of them. Man, like it was a ton of fun all the time. Like I said, we were incredibly close, and yeah, like winning was I don't know, a product of that. But like, dude, like we were just like close all the time. Everything was fun, man. Like, yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. That was a very, very close team.
How do you look at this now? How do you look at the team aspect of sports into now your professional life and what you're getting ready to do at Goldman? I'd love to talk about where do you see yourself going in the next 5 to 10 years, and how will you bring what you learned from the team aspect and the performance aspect of professional football into what you're doing now?
It came down to investment banking or trading for me. And the reason being is I needed something that wasn't too far from what like I knew. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like I needed high stakes, high pressure, because that's what we came out of. And investment banking specifically, like you are working in a team for a common goal with like everything else I just said. And so one thing about like the NFL, and you don't really think it's transferable until you get out. And what I mean by that is like the that takes no effort, right? Like showing up on time, having a good attitude, working hard. Like, dude, that's probably 80% of success, man. Like you can be taught the other 20% from there, right? So
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
that's kind of like what I brought into Wharton, and then brought into my summer internship last summer to get the return offer, where it was just like, yeah, I know what I don't know, which is not very much, as I had just got started. But dude, like I'm not gonna complain because the hours are long. Like I'm not gonna complain because it's hard. Like do what you need to do. Don't complain. And like we're taught to work until the job is finished, not until the clock's is over. Like coming in, like that's ingrained in us, and I don't think we really realize that until we leave. And another thing that I realized is like, dude, like we have to give 100% because the bar is so high. Like when you give 99%, it's very apparent you're giving 99%. And I don't get you cut.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
the real world, man, like people will see you go hard and be like, dude, like, bro, chill. Like, relax. Like this is
Yeah.
how to do. Like this is what I, this is all I know. And
Right.
so it's just the things that take no talent, man. That like I think are a majority of success. And then like it's a smaller part where like you learn what you need to do. But like if you're doing all those other things, dude, like in time you'll figure it out. That's what I'll say. Like make them speed. Like no matter what you get into as a pro athlete, like if you're doing the things that take no talent, in due time, whatever gap that is, like dude, you'll be here before you know it. So going into like Goldman, like yeah, like I'm sure there'll be a lot of things I'll be completely new with. I have that confidence just because like, dude, if you can have success in the NFL where it's a dog eat dog world, hey, no matter what you're getting ready to get into, like you have the building blocks and fundamentals to like know what that path of success looks like. And like you'll figure it out. Just give it time.
Last question for you, Brandon Brooks, Super Bowl champion, Goldman Sachs executive. One of the things that I've heard you talk about throughout this interview, whether it was becoming a rookie, going to your internships, doing things different than anyone around you, You have a great process with failure. And I think one of the keys to success, in addition to those, what you're talking about, right? Mastering the things that take no talent, showing up on time. What's your advice to people around failure or fear of failure so that they can achieve their greatness as you have?
I don't think you have great success without failing. You could look throughout history of anyone who's been great, and you will see basically a long line of failures. The thing people don't realize is like you only need to get it right once. Like it doesn't matter how many times you fail, right? Like Steve Jobs, right? Kicked out of his own company at Apple, right? He still was Steve Jobs. He came back into this thing. Elon Musk, same way he's had failures along the way. It's like you don't have great success without taking great risk. And if you have great risk, the higher probability of failing is much higher. Don't be afraid to fail. Like just keep trying. Like you'll figure it out. And so for me, like yeah, I failed. I'll probably fail again. Probably fail dozens of more times. But like you just have to keep going, man. Like you will figure it out. You just gotta, have confidence in yourself to know that like, yeah, bro, like in time, like you'll be fine. Like, if you fail at one thing or, see something differently, like you will figure it out in time, man.
He is Brandon Brooks, and we are confident you loved this interview with the Super Bowl champion, Wharton School of Business graduate, and Goldman Sachs executive. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you so much. Love you, brother, and honor to have you, man.
Brandon, appreciate you coming on, man.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Gridiron and Growth with your co-host, Ryan Harris, and myself. Big shout out to Big Up Studios and Streamline Media for all their help with everything that we do. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Please leave a review and please send us any questions at the Gridiron and Growth Pod at gmail.com.